Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County is a group that is here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition. And in addition to being our Good Friday morning, it is Happy Aloha Friday as well. So we always, or at least I always like to celebrate Aloha Friday, and that's why I have my Aloha shirt on today. And those of you, if you have an Aloha shirt in the closet, you're welcome to quickly dart off and come on back with it. You're welcome to put it on or just wait till next week. I was kind of looking around on the internet to find out what else was special about today. And I found something interesting, especially for you tech people. Today, in 1995, is when the website AuctionWeb was first started. So AuctionWeb first went online on this date in 1995. And so I'm sure many of you know AuctionWeb by the name that it changed 2 years later. AuctionWeb became eBay. So eBay started as a company, AuctionWeb. And it was started by a gentleman who just wanted a way to get rid of some of his stuff. And but then it took off quite quickly and became, well, now what it is now, eBay. And eBay is more than an auction site. It's certainly an e-commerce website. So eBay, its foundings was started today in 1995. So that's another thing special about September 3rd. And another thing special is we have a lot of resources here at PSG of Mercer County to help with you and your job search. And so one of the things that we do have is our LinkedIn group. You absolutely positively need to be on LinkedIn if you are in a job search. And one thing that may help you grow your number of connections is by joining groups. Join different groups in LinkedIn. You can join, I think now it's up to 100 groups. And it doesn't have to be only industry groups. It could be things that you're interested in personally. So if you like gardening, or if you like pets, or if you like exercise, or taking hikes, whatever it is, find those groups, because there could be people in groups like those that may be your next connection to somebody in your career. So that could be helpful. Our group is called PSG of Mercer County, so go search for it. One thing special about our group, it is made up only of members who have been to at least one of our meetings. So these are people that are sensitive to job search, most likely have all been in a job search on their own. And one thing that makes that special is that the likelihood, if you contact somebody in the group for some sort of guidance or assistance or help, there's a good chance that person will respond back to you because they understand the value of connecting in job search. There have probably been some times you've reached out to people on LinkedIn who never got back to you, but people in job search understand that that's important. So join the group. We have over 1,680 members in the group now. And so there's a good chance as you go through your job search and want to do research on companies, even if you don't have someone as a first degree connection that may be helpful in that case, you'll have another 1,688 or so that we have that can be all connections of yours as well. In addition, we do have our website. It is psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. If you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, it's a great resource, even though it sounds like self-serving that I say that, but it's really over 120 web pages of content. It's a lot of information that over the years our committees have put together to really expand and be helpful for job seekers. One of the pages that we do talk about on our professional development tab, there's a tab on top called professional development, and in there you click on e-learning, and we've added now 77 links to 77 e-learning websites. So if you are looking to learn a new skill or brush up on something or just take some classes to help you pass some time, and you're not sure where to look or go, you may want to use our e-learning page to get links to 77 different e-learning sites. Many of them are free classes, some of them are individual, you pay only the individual, and there are a few that you do pay a subscription. Why do we include paid classes? Because the reason why, it's more options for you. I realize not everybody wants or can pay for classes right now, but there are a lot that are free, and so you may want to go check that out. On the professional development tab on top, then look at the e-learning link. So in just a moment, we will be turning the meeting over to Janelle. She's got a wonderful program today. And so the way we're going to manage questions and answers or handle it is one of two ways. We are going to use chat. And in chat, what you can do is just type the word question. And that's kind of the digital equivalent of raising your hand. Type the word question. And I'll be monitoring that. Janelle may be peeking at it. I know she'll be also looking at the cameras as well. But and at some point, I'll just say, oh, excuse me, Janelle, we have a question. And you will unmute and talk with Janelle. Another option, if you don't want to actually have a direct conversation with Janelle, but have an important question, type the word question, and then type your question, and I will read it on your behalf, and Janelle will answer that for you. And the reason why we ask you to type the word question, it allows me to see that you do indeed have a question, because we do use chat for other things like elevator pitches and introductions and things that are going on, and I would not want to accidentally miss your question. I'll do my best not to, but that would be one way. If it says question, then I'll be pretty sure not to miss it. So type the word question or type the word question with your question in chat. And so that's what we're going to do today. Janelle is not presenting a slide deck, so there's no slide deck for us to share or for you to miss any pages. She's going to be talking to us in group setting, and so that'll work out very nicely today. And so PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back Janelle Razzino. Janelle, President and CEO of Razzino Associates, Inc., has proven to discover the right talent for the right companies at the right time. She's passionate about bringing big ideas to life, motivating and empowering candidates, and partnering with companies to make great things happen. Featured in the New York Times and on CBS World News, Janelle continues to cultivate deep respect and long-lasting relationships in the hottest areas and the most up-to-date industries. Her positive, upbeat presentations, and that certainly are, and development programs enhance, inspire, and motivate the individual, the team, and the overall organizational performance. Janelle is a regular speaker at many corporate outplacement firms and networking groups. She's the founder of the Hillsdale Network Career Resource Ministry in Hillsdale, New Jersey, which now includes over 1,900 members. She has also presented programs to students and professors at Mount St. Vincent College in New York, the County College of Morris, and Bergen Community College in New Jersey, and has been a guest on the talk radio show, Your Career is Calling, broadcast live each Sunday morning from Rider University. That's 107.7 The Bronx. PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome one of the most upbeat people I know, Janelle Razzino.
Wow. You know, sometimes you can't imagine what that all sounds like until somebody's reading it. It's amazing. Thank you, David, so much. And I am like blown away this morning with all of you coming in on this Labor Day weekend, especially on a Friday, especially with the weather being so beautiful. And I appreciate that more than you can imagine. It is very humbling. I'm not quite sure exactly what you will take away from here today, but I hope even if it's this much, hopefully it will help you in your job search. Most of you know I am a recruiter in the business 34 plus years. Love every minute of it. So it really isn't a job. And I am blessed to say that because from the very first day I started this business, I feel the same way. Again, thank you for coming in this morning. And now we'll get through the next couple of hour and a half or so, and you can start, you have the entire rest of the day to do exactly what you want and enjoy it more than anything else. There have been an enormous amount of stories that I've listened to, spoken about, different scenarios from people in their job search today. And there's a lot of reasons for unusual things happening, people not getting back after weeks and weeks. There are people that have turned down job offers, which I can't believe for one reason or another. There are companies out there who have rescinded offers recently, which I can't believe. So we're finding that there's so many different unusual circumstances today, which means that each and every one of us has to be a little more diligent, a little different, being able to differentiate ourselves when we go out there to talk to people. And I know that LinkedIn is a very big tool for just about everyone. And if you're going to use it, try to use it the right way when you're reaching out to people you don't know. That seems to be one of the things that stops people from maybe making that next step. You know, Dave, and there was a very interesting person online. Her name is Storm. Well, I saw Stormy Weather, and I was going to ask who that was.
Well, I know who that is.
You know who that is?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
not
you do?
it's not a weather person. It's not a porn star. Don't worry.
No, not. All right. Well, I was because that is a way of differentiating yourself, because look, my eyes saw Stormy Weather and immediately I wanted to find out who that was. So what it is, it's an engaging phrase, it's an engaging name, word, whatever. So those are the kinds of things you have to think about when reaching out to people you know and people that you don't know. And I would imagine that everyone here today is at the point in their career where they're talking to people that are, you know, at a pretty high level, and want to reach out to those people to let them know you exist, and perhaps maybe have a couple of moments of their time. You know, sometimes, again, today, people stop themselves from achieving their full potential, not because they aim too high and missed, but because they aim too low and hit. And we stop ourselves, you know, from gaining a little elevation into a next career move, into a next VP level, into a next senior VP level. And we need to think about ourselves as, all right, what would have been the next step for me in the career I was in? Now, whether it was pandemic related, whether the downsizing happened, you know, before or after or during, maybe you decided to make a career shift, change, completely did a 180 and decided to go, you know, onto the entrepreneurial path. So many things have happened with people, with yourselves, and what you want to do next. My attitude is continue to climb that ladder. I don't care what direction you want to go in your career, but climb the ladder. You know, don't feel that you have to take a couple of steps back just to get the job, because you don't. And again, that goes along with the way you reach out to people, your delivery, how you come across initially. And those are very key items. The other thing that holds us back from doing that is that I call it that white noise in the background that says, oh, I couldn't possibly do this. Oh, there's no way I could, you know, reach out to a chief operating officer or a chief executive officer or even a CFO. I don't know that person. That voice has to stop. We have got to understand that in our positions that we were in before, think about who you interacted with every day. Whether that was any of the C-level or any of the SVP levels who you reported to, understand that they know your language and that there's nothing that they know that you don't, because you worked with those people as you went along, you know, in your career and in your office or even at home. So don't be afraid, and don't let the noise behind you say, you know what, I'm going to put that on the shelf. Don't put it on the shelf. Run towards it, make it happen, and just do it. You know, one of the things my trainer says to me all the time is never use the word try. Because what's trying? Well, I might do it, I might not do it. It's a very weird word. So either you do it or you don't. And if you decide not to, well, hopefully you'll revisit it. But it's not about the trying, it's about doing it. Reaching out and touching the person that you want to connect with is key. And that's how you get into those positions, into the roles. So how many people call me on the phone every day or email me every day and say, Janelle, can you introduce me to so-and-so? I see your first connection to, the COO or the CEO. And, obviously I know who you are. And there's a job there. It's really wonderful. And it's perfect for me. And I match it perfectly. Well, okay. I have no problem doing that ever. But what you need to do is to do exactly the same thing that I do. You've got to reach out to that person. I would say 10 out of 10 times, if I reach out to a contact on LinkedIn for you, that person will come back to me and say, Janelle, no problem. Make sure the person reaches out to me, one day next week in the afternoon is the best time. And that message back to them has to be absolutely perfect. How do you make that? How do you write those notes? What do I say? How do I make it effervescent enough so that the person will be excited about talking to me? Now, I can pepper that note better than anybody when I'm reaching out. That's what I do for a living. For you, it may not be as easy, but when you reach out to that individual that says, sure, have Dave call me, have Maria call me, have Jim call me. What is it that you're going to say? And that's where it becomes a little scary because you want to make a good impression. So what do you think? Dave, why don't I ask somebody if they've done that recently and see what their thoughts are?
Sure. So an opportunity, folks, if you want to just respond to Janelle, please do so.
I'd like to suggest that I did something like that recently, but I'm a bit conflicted because I thought that it was natural to reach out if I saw something that I might be interested in, that I could, reach out to maybe somebody that I presume to be the hiring manager or my supervisor in the role, to try to get their attention and see if they are open to chatting. But so of late, I've received a different advice that suggested that I should focus on building the relationship first, rather than reaching out when I see something where I feel like I might be a fit. So it seems like we have two conflicting two conflicting messaging here. If you don't mind sharing your thoughts in this, that would be great.
Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry that you're getting conflicting comments. However, for example, my name is Jean, and I have been targeting your company for quite some time. It was wonderful to see recently that the company had expanded in XYZ. That's an example, Jean. Or, by the way, I noticed, and Dave brought up a great point this morning. I also noticed that you were in the FENG group, or you volunteer in the same group that I do, in the area that I live in. I would love to take 15 minutes of your time and chat about a wonderful role that's connected to your firm. When you write notes like that, that pick out very, very specific differentiating items into the individual, about the individual and about you, that's when you get the reaction. You are never going to ask anybody for a job, right? You're not going to say, I'm contacting you because I'm looking for a job. You're contacting them because, one, that company has been very exciting for you. It's on your target list. And you've got to find that common thread that makes the person say, wow, I didn't know that Jean was in that same volunteer group, or part of that same community, or part of that, maybe you went to the same school. And I understand that does bring a lot of good connections together, you know, even the school. So you've got to be creative. You've got to do something to differentiate yourself. Now, I don't know if Stormy Weather joined us back, but if I'm Stormy Weather and my name is Janelle Razzino, I am putting in parentheses Stormy Weather. Somebody's calling me back. All I'm trying to say is grab something that is interesting. You need to be interesting. Jean, does that help?
It does. Thank you.
I mean, does it make sense for you?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think the only caveat I have is particularly when is the initial message, is the 300 character limitation from LinkedIn. So,
All right.
so yeah, if I break that initial connection, then I could go into the email if the email is public. But the very first approach is the hardest nut to crack, if I could use that expression, because the character limitation. So they can only I can only pack so much in this 300 character.
Yes. No, and I understand that. So think about the note that you want to write, very upbeat. Make sure that delivery, you know, packs a punch. You know, say something or write something that, you know, is going to be interesting to the reader. That is the key. And there's lots of ways to do that. You know, delivery is the most important. When you go into an interview, right? The delivery has got to be right there. Whether it's on Zoom, on whatever, or if you're in person, your excitement must come through in writing and in person. There's no other way around that. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people don't get moved on, you know, in the second round because of a lackluster attitude. I don't think anybody on this meeting this morning is lackluster. Not if you jumped in here this morning, right? Instead of sticking your toes in the sand. I mean, I got to believe that. So writing or talking, you need to be very, very excited about what's happening. And I don't mean jumping up and down in your chair. I mean, give them robust, good answers. You know, I tend to be, you know, I tend to be a little more assertive with my candidates, you know, and get them to, you know, so to speak, pump up the volume when they're interviewing or we're on a one-on-one, or I encourage them, you know, to be a little bit more aggressive, assertive, whatever word you want to use, and let people know, you know, you're great at what you do. That can come over in a note. You are very proud of what you've accomplished. You'd love to accomplish the same or better in that firm. You know, so there's lots of ways to talk about that. All right, so there you go. Hopefully, Jean, that'll help. That's helpful. And always use positive words.
So that's very helpful. So are you a proponent of like developing a template, or should if each message be tailored to the individual?
Always tailored. Always tailored. You know, you may find out things about that person before you're sending the note, while you're doing research. And, you know, that could be, obviously you want to do the research first. And you may find out some things that are, you know, that you could speak to almost immediately. So give it a shot.
Thank you.
The one thing that I found in almost 80% of anyone that connects with me on LinkedIn, there is no signature. You know, it's a LinkedIn. And I know that if I wanted to accept the person, I can. But do you know that in this marketplace, if there is a phone number attached or an email attached to your LinkedIn message at the bottom, I will have the tendency to pick up that phone and or email you immediately. Because as a recruiter, what is it that I want? You're reaching out to me. How do I get Janelle to get back to me? How do I perk Janelle's interest? Well, I'll tell you what you don't do. I got an email this morning. I got a LinkedIn this morning, just this morning. Someone I don't know, pretty high level up the food chain. Hi, Janelle. My name is Bob, and I would like to connect with you. If you have any leads or if you know people in my IT space, I would appreciate you forwarding them along. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with that message?
I would say here's a person who doesn't know you, but they're immediately asking for something without even saying what their background is, what they might be able to do in exchange for you helping them. They're just kind of right in your face, kind of.
Right. This guy didn't even have like the savviness to say, by the way, Janelle, I looked at your profile, unbelievably amazing. I'd love to connect with you. You know, I'm in job search, whatever. That alone, that compliment alone would have gotten me to connect with him. Even a small compliment, right? I saw what you did. Oh my God, you've been in business for so long. Nothing. This guy popped out at me looking for leads. Now, I'm not going to accept his LinkedIn. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make moving forward. If this person can do this as a VP or better, then I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that do it. Now, maybe he hasn't been at Dave's PSG meeting or any of the network meetings out there, you know, to learn some of this. But I got to believe if you've been in business that long, and by the way, beautiful background, you know, in digital transformation, but not going to, you know, I'm not going to click back. And this is what people look for when you reach out to them. Why should I connect with them? They want something from me. Now, knowing you, most of you who know me, you know, I'll do just about anything for anyone. But LinkedIn, if you don't have that right message or that right delivery, you know, I don't need to click on that to add to my contacts. Forget it. As a matter of fact, as a recruiter, I probably have the least amount of contacts of all the recruiters out there. I've only got about 5,800 or something like that. Most recruiters out there have like in the, you know, tens of thousands. And that's because they click on everybody, you know, just to expand that number. I've never felt comfortable with that. So every person that I'm connected to out there, I know. So if you work with me and you say, Janelle, I see you're connected to, you know, XYZ at GAF, would you make an introduction for me? I'll do it. And that person will respond. That's the difference between my connections and why I choose the connections I do, because they're personal and professional, of course. So make sure that that note that you send is a tight delivery. It gets somebody to respond back to you because you said something nice, you sparked something, not just, I'd love 15 minutes of your day. There's a job I noticed on your website. I have the right background. That's not the way you're going to approach this. Reaching out to someone is a good thing. They will inevitably be happy that you touched base. But the idea is to get them to get back to you. And that's what you have to work on. Finding out interesting facts, more than anything, is key. And you do that in your research. What about, how about new executive hires? Does anybody do research on, who the company has just recently hired, in those positions? That's a good way, to, by the way, congratulations on the great new adventure. Notice that you just joined, the company would love to connect with you. We have a couple of things in common based on our backgrounds. Would you have a few moments for me? In most cases, when you do that to a new person, they're ultimately thrilled that you thought about them. And they will respond back because they're in that mode, of doing all the right things, doing all the connection, doing all the right connecting things. By the way, has anybody out there had a success story with reaching out cold to a particular person or company? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, if you do, just quickly unmic and tell us your story.
Yeah.
Give us the scenario or how it was successful.
Yeah.
I'll tell one, Janelle, and this is between you and I. You presented to our PSG group, I don't know how many years ago, at the library. And for those of you who don't know how giving she is, she lives in about the northernmost part of New Jersey and came down to Princeton on one Friday morning. And you were talking something about cloud computing because it was some position.
Oh.
And you said, I don't even know what this is, but I'm selling this. And in the back of the room, I raised my hand and I said, why don't we have a cup of coffee and we'll talk about cloud computing. And you and I have stayed in touch ever since. And so it wasn't that I was, and at that time I was job hunting, but I wasn't talking to you as a job hunter. I was talking as a friend helping a friend or making a new connection. And for me, it's been wonderful that we now have this friendship.
Dave, I feel the very same way, but I'll never forget that day as long as I live. Cloud computing was like a foreign language to me. But there were companies that were coming to me and saying, Janelle, can you help me? And what the hell is cloud computing? And Dave absolutely took me by the hand after the meeting and said, let's have a coffee. I'm going to make you a little intelligent about, what this is. And from that day forward, I became a little smarter about all of that technology. And that relationship stuck. Relationships will stick if you avail yourself, to the situation. Relationships build that way. How many people on this meeting have had relationships that have expanded over years because you've either helped someone, listened, you yourself reached out back to someone who reached out to you, and certainly started a good conversation and relationship. That happens both ways. And it may never produce a job. But what it does do is it expands a relationship, a connection, somebody who knows who you are and will have you in their mind all the time. It'll spark something in their minds. You certainly will have remembering other people. I'm sure you've had several times, and helped others along the way. Oh, what's that quote? Somebody gave me a great quote. Turn around and help the next person up. Right, and I'm sure a lot of you did that by just reaching back out. All right, so when you're looking for the executive hires, see who just got hired. And by the way, you can find that information just about anywhere. Look for company expansions. You know, companies are acquiring, building, expanding, moving to bigger locations. In everything that we're involved with right now in this world, I will tell you that companies are opening, companies are expanding, new companies are popping up. I've been going through a very lengthy project. What's the word? I'm being interviewed, all right, by a company. And I've been going through a very lengthy paper process with them. And this is going to be a technology company that is going to service many, many different types of organizations. And whether you're in IT or accounting, finance, marketing, this company is going to need a lot of people. So if I am lucky enough to get on their vendor list as one of their top recruiters, you're going to start seeing all of these roles. And here's a brand new company who's got, uber wealth, who decided we're going into the technology business. And that's the kind of company I want to work with, because it's innovative, creative, they have a lot of money, and they're not going anywhere. Same mergers and acquisitions, find out who merged. One of my clients down on Wall Street just merged with another fintech company. So the firm was 500 million in revenue, now became a $1.75 billion organization overnight. Now, what do you think is happening there? In IT, the connectivity piece, infrastructure, network, everything around the globe has to expand to facilitate all of the venues, right? All the logos, all the people, all the clients. They have to expand now. And I'm inundated with network positions. Platform network, platform this, platform that, and then of course, infrastructure. So look for the mergers. Look for the companies that have gotten B and C and D and F funding. That means that company is going places. First round, second round, third round, go and check in with, I guess it's the Hoovers of the world. Go in and check in who's got the funding, over the last couple of months, and see what series it is. Because the higher you go up that alphabet, the wealthier they're going to become. Behavior is, by the way, part of this. Behavior on not only the client's part, but also your part. And there are organizations out there who are, what's the word I want to use? I guess they're staunch in the way they do the recruiting, or in their the way they do their connecting with you or their people. especially on the talent acquisition side. And I want you to be mindful of the way they treat you. That today is absolutely key, is how you're being treated in the interviewing process. And you should always be on top of not so much about, oh, I got to get this job, but how are the people treating me in this organization? I don't want you to waste a whole bunch of time. Dave, are you telling me that I have a couple of questions?
No, I was sending a note to everyone to the chat, letting them know, reminding them how to ask their questions. So folks, as you have a question for Janelle, and it could be as she tells an anecdote or describes a procedure, something comes to mind, that's a great time to just, either raise your hand or type the word question and allow yourself to talk to Janelle. So just reminding everyone, that's all.
No, you're absolutely, no, absolutely. And by the way, it can definitely be off topic. What happens in the network meetings is we'll talk about a particular topic like this, how to reach out, how to be creative, how to differentiate yourself, all of that good stuff. Don't be afraid to ask me questions about salary, about you, about, maybe an interview you're going in next week. Do not be afraid, because ask me, because I'll help you, or I'll give you a couple of ideas as to how to, hopefully land that second round.
And absolutely, because Janelle has now the recruiter's perspective, the understanding the mindset of the hiring manager. So if you got questions along those lines. Michael does have a question. So Michael, if you don't mind, just quickly unmute and ask away. And there's another coming up too.
Janelle, unlike, I don't know, 40 or so years ago, or whatever the case might be, when my mother, whose kids were much older than I was, and one of them graduated around 60 or 62 from Rensselaer and worked his entire career for RCA, and they paid for all his advanced degrees. I mean, the world's not like that anymore. So do you feel that we're still in a situation, and it'll keep going that way, where people will have at least 3 or 4 different careers in entirely different things during the course of their work time?
Well, okay. If you're talking about a graduate, the answer is yes. If you're talking about you, I'm not sure where you are in your career at the moment in transition, or how you left that firm, but I'm going to say 3 or 4 more moves. If that's something that is on your horizon, and you are looking forward to that, it could happen. If you're looking for one company to rest, I'm done now. I hear a lot of that. Janelle, I want the last company, I want to rest, and I'm done, and in 5 years I'm going to retire. In most cases, you will find a company that you can do that in, especially in manufacturing, consumer products. Your expertise and your level of career and knowledge is very well received and respected, by the way. All you have to do is decide what company is going to provide that for me. So I see it, Mike, I do. One company, maybe 2, if that's your choice, or if you just want to keep going, 3 or 4, it could happen. There are companies that are paying for education, by the way, still paying for education, looking at the employee as an asset, and I'm sure you can find them. By the way, is everybody familiar with NJ Biz? It's a periodical. 1, it's online. 2, every year at this time, they come out with a list of the top 250 privately held companies in New Jersey. And I just got that insert, as well as the directory will come out, I think in probably a month or two. But that directory gives you names, executives, phone numbers, emails, all the addresses, so that you can even write to them if you want. You know, if you're a little shy, then do the cover letter and then send your resume. And we haven't talked about cover letters. You know, you got two camps on that. But that publication, Dave, is outstanding. So I encourage people to look, you know, if you don't know what it is, it's njbiz.com.
Yeah, and I just put the link in chat. So that's a terrific resource. There's also a question from Yuri. So Yuri, if you'd like to unmute, please do so.
Mike, did that help you?
Oh.
Yes, and I was just about to say, is NJBiz a good place to go to find the smaller employees who are private as opposed to, you know, public corporations?
It is, but did I answer your question?
Oh, yes.
All right, good. All right, fine. But yes, and by the way, on that list are some very, very big companies. You know, it's obviously they're private, but they have a lot of money, you know, so they can afford you. Yes, Dave.
So Yuri has a question. Yuri, if you'd like to unmute.
Sure. Thank you. Hello, Janelle. How are you? We connected about 2 months ago. I don't know if you remember. Hopefully you do. It's great to see you because I think we just spoke over the phone.
Yes.
So my question is as follows. So I've been in the nonprofit world for the past 15 years at the CFO level and am in transition. And so I'm trying to network with other, you know, medium to large size nonprofits. And ideally, I'd like to speak to a hiring manager, right? So the challenge is for me that the hiring manager, given the position I'm going for, are either the CEO or executive director of the organization or somebody on the board, right? And those connections are challenging to make, right? These are busy people. They have gatekeepers. You know, I've reached out over the internet, but they're hard to connect because they're trying not to connect. Do you have any thoughts or advice on approaches that I could implement to help out with that?
In that area, if it's the board or again, you know, high level in the not-for-profit world, I've got to believe, one, that you are connected to other CFOs in the not-for-profit world. Is that correct?
Some, yes, not as many as I would like, but a couple here and there, yes.
In terms of a network.
Right.
Okay, and you are in that group, the not-for-profit group for CFOs in not-for-profit on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay. Have you asked any of them if they've ever approached or had done what you're looking to do?
Well, not in so many words, no.
Right, probably not. So, for example, if I were to put you in touch with Nancy Kenny, and Nancy is a current CFO for a company in New Jersey in not-for-profit, and her whole career has been not-for-profit. If you ask Nancy what she did to talk to other decision makers for a role that she was looking for as CFO, Nancy will give you, you know, a month of Sundays as to what she did, you know, to solidify another role. And if you are looking, you know, let's say you have a list of 5 people, or whether they're on the board or, you know, at the CEO level, whatever. What's the one thing you want to do more than anything else? You want to compliment. What makes this not-for-profit so damn special? What do they do for the world? Do they affect the world? Is it just a community level? What is it? So now think about what you can say that would perk somebody's interest. Wow, this guy, Yuri, did a great job. I'm going to reach out to him. It comes down to all of that research and networking that you could do to connect one common thread. And I know it's not easy, Yuri.
Yeah.
Reaching out is not easy. But when you do, and you will, having the right words, having the right firepower, that punch that I talk about is important to have. And we can do that. We can talk about that offline too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we can spend time Zooming or whatever, and I can, help you along there. But reach out to Nancy Kenny. Nancy will help as well.
I will do. Thank you very much, Janelle. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, for anyone who's looking for connections and people to connect with in the not-for-profit community, in Central New Jersey is Trenton Area Stakeholders. It's a networking group of not-for-profit professionals, and they used to meet twice every 2 months. Now they don't meet in person. So I'll put the connection information in there if you want to begin to reach out to people at the leadership of Trenton Area Stakeholders. It's not just Trenton, but Central New Jersey. Another for not-for-profits is a website and a group in Princeton called Board Connect. And they used to be called Volunteer Connect. Now they're Board Connect. And so they look to train people as board members for not-for-profit organizations. And not that any of you specifically want to be on a board, but board members of not-for-profit organizations have connections to the leadership of the not-for-profit organizations. And that you may find helpful as well.
There you go.
There's a question from, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's got to be extremely helpful, Dave.
Yep, so I'll put that in chat in just a moment. And there's another question from Jean. And so Jean posted this. How would you suggest someone actively looking structure their day? For instance, how to prioritize networking, interview prep, research, etc. What do in your estimation, are key that should be done daily?
Wow, Jean, that's a big question. And that's obviously going to depend upon, that depends upon you and your, what's going on in your life and, what's happening with your family and, or maybe you're, maybe you're single and, you have, it's just you, and that either way, it's all good. Did you know that the best time that people love to hear from other people are between the hours of 3 and 5 in the afternoon? That is a perfect couple of hours, where people will are more likely to respond. And I read a lot of articles, business reviews, all kinds of articles on the timing, because I do it, because how am I going to be successful? And I read a lot and research a lot about, what would be the perfect time. If somebody calls me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3:30 in this office, which by the way, a lot of people do, and it's typically to set up interviews, it's the companies calling because they're rushing to the deadline. Oh my God, I had all morning to call Janelle, I didn't do it. Now it's 3:30 and this place becomes chaotic between the hours of 3 and 5 for me. In most cases, companies, if I call a company between 3 and 5, 9 times out of 10, I'm getting the person I want. Everybody had lunch. They're looking at the clock. It's 2:30, it's 3 o'clock, it's 3:30, winding down. And now the phone rings or an email comes in. Oh, let me see who this is. That 3 to 5 is a perfect time. So that's a great time to reach out for just about anybody. hopefully you are in good spirits at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, there are people, I'll get calls at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm already a couple cups of coffee in. I've already done my routine, my workout routine. So I'm working on all 8 cylinders at 7:30. By 3:30, there's no change. At 6:30, there's no change. And do not call my cell phone at 9:30 because I'm in bed already. But what I'm trying to say is your attitude, your spirit, your smiling, your excitement about reaching out needs to be there all the time. So if I'm Eugene, pick the day or pick the time of the day that you feel most effervescent, most excited, most energetic, whatever word you use for yourself, and start doing your networking. You call up John Sampson. John, good morning, it's Jean. Right? I know that you're like one of the best networkers in town. I would love to chat with you for a couple of moments, give you a little idea about what I'm up to, what I do, and I'd like 15 minutes. And most likely John Sampson is going to say, great. What time would you like to do that?
Actually, Janelle, the first question I ask them is, are they Red Sox fans?
And Gene, if you're not a Red Sox fan, don't call John.
The
Well,
answer
it depends on the time of day.
Yeah. Folks, the answer is yes. If John Sampson asks you, say yes.
Right, just say yes. It's now see, John, you just opened that door. You just opened that door, John. So listen, okay, I'm going to make a sidestep here. I get off topic for a second. It's no surprise to any of you that I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan. As a matter of fact, right, of course. And Green Bay is supposed to play New Orleans in New Orleans on September 12th. And I think what's happening is that they're moving the game to Dallas if they don't try out. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, all you Giant fans out there, which by the way, love the Giants. I think they got a great team. I'm always rooting for them when they're not playing the Packers. And Denver's coming into town on the 12th. So I wish the Giants a lot of luck. That ought to be a great game.
Yeah, Fiddledum playing Fiddle-dee. No.
Well, you know, is it a Vince Lombardi fetish? Well, you know,
A lot of people know Vince Lombardi as the head coach of Green Bay, but he was also a coach on the Giants before that.
That's right.
And he played for Fordham, right, as one of the 7 blocks of granite. So there, and of course, Vince Lombardi has, he's been a mainstay in my very, very, very early years in my home. And of course, throughout my entire adult life and my career, I've used a lot of the quotes that he's used in terms of how I live and work my job and do all the things that I do in life, because he was a great coach. My dad was a great coach too. He loved Vince Lombardi. So that's why I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan. So John, your Giants need to step up on the 12th and beat Denver.
A wonderful idea.
So you got to have faith. You got to believe, John.
Yes, right. Them and the Jets, right.
Right, and the Jets too. I mean, I said it to a couple of people already. You know, the Jets could be the Cinderella team.
That is true.
Right, they could be.
Hell may freeze over too.
John, it's Jeffrey. You know, we've seen 35 inches of rain. Anything is possible.
Well,
I agree.
It is so true. But Dave, thank you for letting me go off topic a little bit. I appreciate that.
Could
So
I bring her back? Could I bring her back to topic?
Of course.
This week on LinkedIn, there was a dialogue about the issue of you're in an interview process or going to be in one, and as the candidate, asking the firm and or the people that you're interviewing with for their references. I'm wondering what you think about that.
And before I answer that, Jean, did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
I did. All right. Networking and researching, you got to decide, what part of the day you feel best in. When are you the most energetic?
I would say that I'm a morning person. And so I have my best energy and I like to peace and quiet in the morning. So in the afternoon, like you said, when I was working, I like to have my meetings in the afternoon because then the big ticket item are taken care of in the morning.
All right, well, then utilize that energy, whether it's to talk to people, maybe you feel good about calling someone. By the way, people always love to hear from people, just to say good morning or hello or whatever. And that's a great way to start a conversation. So, all right, good. As long as I answered your question. John, that was a very, very interesting debate that I saw.
And
listen, if I'm the recruiter and you're my candidate, you're going to know everything about that hiring manager before you walk in the door, right? You're going to know who, what, where, when, because I know them. I think if you, my thought behind that was, yeah, you have to, you can do references or research on the person that you're interviewing with. Is that something you would ask the person?
I guess the only question in my mind would be the timing. Alex Freund, who I don't believe is here this morning, has said, look, what's the objective of this whole thing? It's to get the offer. When you've got the offer, the leverage has changed maybe substantially. And
Yes.
after that, you may start saying, well, look, give me 2 of your references, okay? And see what happens.
Anybody?
Well, let's think about it. We all want our jobs. Do we all understand we're going to be cheek to jowl for, in one way or another, for 8-10 hours a day? What do you like?
Well, no, I agree with you 100%. If you're on your own and you want to get to know a little bit about who you work for, what is this person like, then asking for references, if they're going to ask you about it, it's the same thing, John, when you're asking for salary, right? When somebody asks you, what are your salary expectations? My response to that is, I would be happy to talk to you about my salary expectations. What is the position budgeted for? It's the same response. If you're going to ask me for references, if you're going to ask me about salary and money, I'm going to ask you about that. So you can, I guess, put it in the same category. I'd be happy to give you my references. May I have a couple on you? That would be, I don't see anything wrong with that. If there is a good delivery, right? We're back to the delivery again. How it's posed. Mr. Smith, Miss Mary, thank you so much for making me an offer. I am, going to look at the whole package, the benefits, and if you don't mind, I would love to talk to a couple of references of yours and bring it in on the tail end.
Especially after when you have the leverage of you made me an offer, and theoretically they're serious about it. So right. What do you like?
Right. What do I like?
Well, what are you like?
Right. What are you? Right. What are you like? You may get a couple of drop chins. in the process, I will tell you a very quick story about salary where that actually happened. One of my candidates down south walked into an interview, and second, third, well, actually, talent acquisition said, John, I really love everything you're saying. May I ask what your salary expectation is? And he said exactly what I taught him to say. I would be happy to talk to you about salary. May I ask what the position is budgeted for? And she said, no. And he said, that's fine. When you are able to talk about salary, I'll be more than happy to have that conversation. He said that her jaw dropped right down to the desk. She could not believe that he actually said that. And I would imagine that would be this, you'd probably get a couple of those asking for references. By the way, he said, we can move on in the conversation. So when she closed her mouth, she started to ask him, she said, I can't tell you salary because I'll get in trouble. Well, I'm not quite sure what kind of trouble that is, but what did we learn? They have a checklist. And one of those checklists, one of those boxes, did you get the salary expectation? Now, she has to check that box, yes or no. If she hands that in with no yes or no, that's a big problem. At the end of the conversation that the candidate and HR had, she said, John, please don't tell anyone, but I could tell you what the range is. Because we all know at this point in time in life that when they don't tell you and they ask you first and they press you, it's to get you at the least amount of salary possible. And I don't like that. So stay strong, work with them, and get them to tell you what the salary range is. It's important. So, John, I think asking for the reference is just as fine.
Actually, LinkedIn provides you some direction in that regard. Companies they've worked for, oh, by the way, I know Larry and Curly there, I'll call them up and see what they say. But another side of it is simply, we're going to do a session at the PSG of Morris County on questions. Bill Belknap's going to do it. But it's not just the question itself, it's as I'm going to call it, the ambience of it, because those questions start to differentiate you as to your sophistication, all that kind of thing, and potentially, hopefully, say something about your confidence in yourself. And so when you start asking these kinds of questions, you want to find out things about them, just the way they do about you. Oh, by the way, that's everybody around you. So, for instance, I know in all of the Q&A interview sequences I've been in, usually you're starting with lower level folks. And oh, by the way, you start, well, tell me about his management style. Usually a stony silence. I know what that might mean. It could mean one of two things. One is there's some things about his management style that need work, and or two, they're really not ready for questions like that at all.
No, they are not. And by the way, it's not about, I don't think it would be, stepping over any particular lines, because it would be about a person that you're going to work with. And you want to know who you're going to work with, especially in today's climate, more than anything. So, John, thanks for bringing that up. Yes, and there's a way to deliver that message too, the right way.
Janelle, it's Jeffrey. Isn't references really a loaded topic? Because if someone, we used to see years and years ago, everyone put on their resume references available. Now it's assumed, but I'm not going to give you references that I haven't pre-screened and written the script for. So asking a prospective employer for references, we should all be doing the due diligence on who do we know in the company, what do we know about this person, what have we found in Google searches, what kind of dirt is there?
Well, okay, the first, all right, so the question is, have these people, has the hiring manager, do they have that information? Well, the first thing I would go to are the people that work for me, right? The people that work directly for me could be a great reference, or they could be a bad reference, but the people that work for me would be the first place I would go if I was posed with that question.
Yeah.
The second place I would go is to my boss, the person I reported to, and say, by the way, one of the candidates that I've been interviewing has asked for a reference on me. So that's right there, right now. And if they're hiring, they're in the position to make that snap decision. That's my guess. What do you think, Jeff?
People, and I could see it being off-putting to a hiring manager to ask that.
Oh, sure it is.
But my other side of that equation, and just like the salary, what salary are you expecting? You're hiring me for a job. You would not want me to make business decisions without having the full picture. So I need more data to make an informed decision on behalf of the company.
So the only thing I can relay, I think a similar example. Let's say I'm working on a high-level job, and my candidate is 95% there. Typically, what will happen is that they will ask me, Janelle, do you think you could set up another call before I make a decision? Can you please set up another call with the CEO? Now, I have to go back to HR and say, Mary or John, I'd like to set up another call for my candidate with the CEO. They'd like to speak with them for another, 10 or 15 minutes. HR becomes, that is an off-putting request, by the way. They go, well, why, what happened? Nothing happened. In order for my candidate to make the best decision with all the facts that he has at this time, he wants to make sure he's making the right decision. And then that call will take place. But you are right about the off-putting, because, like what happened? Well, what did we do wrong? Or why do they have to do that? Because they're not ready for it. So you make a good point, Jeff.
And I think in the times that we're in, where people are turning down jobs and leaving jobs, the hiring and HR folks have yet to recognize that the world has changed.
They do not know that. There are some that did. There are some that have changed or do understand where we are. I would say the majority do not.
Could I just jump in here and ask Maria Force if, as a person from the HR ranks,
yes,
is that true?
Maria, right. Maria, obviously you're excluded from any of that.
And I come from a school of thought where I've been on both sides. So I want to make sure that the candidate is comfortable and that their salary questions are addressed. I mean, at the end of the day, this is someone we want to bring on long term. So why play games? Let's just get everybody comfortable in a conversation.
How about this business of checking out senior folks?
Are you addressing me, John?
Yes.
What's
You
the
want her to
question?
check, you want her to check you out?
Well, yeah. I'm just wondering, you know, when somebody says, I want to go back to the CEO and have another conversation, and you get this back from your recruiter, what's the reaction?
Well, what's the I mean, what do they want to talk about? You know, I think when you start hiring people, everybody wants to, you know, make sure it's a successful hire. So if it entails another conversation, fine. But how you approach the ask is what is important.
Right.
Okay.
And that's exactly right. Maria, how do you feel about okay, so let's say you're vice president of HR for Circor, big manufacturing company, and your candidate says, Maria, I'd like, here are my references that you're requesting. May I have 2 references on my direct hiring manager? What would you say?
No, I've never been asked that in the 20+ years. I've never been asked that. And
right, this is coming up. This is going to come up, as John says.
you know what? I'd say let's talk to some folks in your department that you're interviewing in, and why don't you ask them?
Exactly. The people around the hiring manager. Exactly. That's what I was trying to explain to Jeff. That is absolutely what I would think would be the best ones, or a person that he or she reports to. But Maria, that apparently John feels that's going to be a question that's going to come up with people after these guys like Bill Belknap, Terrence, myself, and all these other network groups are going to start bringing to the fore, well, we need to start getting a little more assertive, knowing where we're going to go, who we're going to work for. And I want to know that the person I'm going to report to is a good person. So this is going to come up now more and more. I can see
You know
it.
what? Yeah, you know, I don't know if I agree, but who knows?
Yeah.
But you know, if you are interviewing appropriately, and you and I know this, you're going to ask questions that will give you a sense of who that person is that you're going to be reporting to. That should be some of your questions. You know, what is the culture at X, Y, and Z like? You know, what happens if? You know, just like those same questions are asked of you, the what ifs, you should be asking those as well to give you a sense of what is this company culture like.
Okay. So again, a real scenario, honeymoon stages. All of a sudden the honeymoon is over, right? The hiring manager, wonderful, happy, said all the right things, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, the person got hired 2 weeks in, all of a sudden, this person became, you know, a monster because the true colors came out. So they were on their best behavior. And now all of a sudden, had they interviewed the people around that person, maybe that would have come out. So, you know, we like our boss. They're a great leader, but are you kidding me? This person, you know, is, what do they call them? Jekyll and Hyde. They are, you know, who died and made them king or queen. So we see this has happened before, where the hiring manager became a different person.
And it's the same way with the candidate. You hired this candidate because they interviewed so well. 2 weeks
Yes.
into the job, you're like, what on earth did we hire here?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
Right. I would believe, you know, I would believe. And this is all the stuff that's going to churn up, I think, moving forward. You know, Maria, you've maybe you have or haven't seen it, but there is a lot of abuse in the workplace lately. We see it on so many levels, you know, where candidates and employees are just not getting, they're just not getting the right stuff. And we see that, I think, with a lot of the, because of what's happening, and people are leaving in droves. Look what happened at Johnson & Johnson. They left in droves in the past 2 weeks, because of all the upsetness there, and, people not understanding what's happening or how to lead. Leadership is in dire need across the board, across every company, because there is none. But people are leaving in droves. They're, deciding to check out. They've been doing this right along, and workplace is going to be tough. It's tough. So reference checking may or may not bring some of this to light. We don't know.
So Janelle, I'd like us to get to a couple of questions that are in chat, if that's okay.
Yes,
so
of course.
there's one from Mike, and we may be now shifting topics a little, but that's okay.
No worries.
This is from Mike. A recruiter told me if you were out of work over 6 months, you were considered, quote, long-term unemployed. They did not want to hire from this group. There's a negative connotation. What is behind this term? I've never heard of it. Don't many people have a 6 month gap due to COVID? Isn't this term irrelevant now?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Which Mike is it?
Mike Stemick.
Oh, it's Mike Stemick. Okay. Mike, are you getting this from a talent acquisition person, a recruiter? Where's the question coming from? Or where's that comment coming from?
Yeah, Mike, if you're oh, okay.
But this is Mike's wife, actually. Yeah, it was a recruiter, and they mentioned this term, and I thought it was just a veiled way for them to say you're not right, or you're too old, or we're just not interested. But then I thought, is there something, what is the legalities behind that? And I think HR companies and Fortune 500 companies where I came from, I've never heard that term, but I'm not an HR person. But I Googled it, and the only people I found talking about it were unemployment offices. And so with so many people out of work, I don't know. I just never heard of the term. So I wanted to ask if I have HR folks, I just thought, what is this, and how could they use this term now? This was before COVID that someone said that to me, but now with COVID, everyone has these big gaps. So what is the point of that term?
So again, do we know where so it came from HR?
Well, it came from a recruiter. Yeah, someone in HR. Like, I don't know if they were a recruiter or they were the big company's HR, but it was an HR person, yes.
So, and they said from a 6, they don't want anyone from that who's been out of work for 6 months in that group.
Well, they just said, oh, if it's been 6 months, curses, your life is over. They didn't really elaborate. It was just a lot of groaning and oohing and eyeing, and I thought, well, what is this term?
All right, I'm not quite sure who or what that was, but today, and your first name is? Your first name?
Mrs. Stemick.
Oh, Mrs. Stemick. All right, Mrs. Stemick. The reason I just hate to address people without a name. Okay, so everybody in the world knows that people have been out of work for the last 6 months because of the pandemic.
Her name is Renee.
Renee, thank you, Renee. So unless they were given the order not to hire anyone that was unemployed, and that does happen sometimes, then I don't understand that the group of, being out of work 6 months. Maria, have you ever heard that? No. No, I wouldn't think so, because today is, it doesn't matter. I have not run into any of that. I have not had a company say to me, Janelle, don't bring me anyone that has been unemployed for the last 6 months or 12 months or whatever, because we all know what the world is right now. So Renee, I would take that with a grain of salt, because it probably came from a talent acquisition person, who was probably 12 and didn't know what's going on in this, in this kind of thing.
There are certainly lots of employment biases. Many of them are illegal. And so this is probably one that would be considered that. So if that's the case, I don't think Janelle as a recruiter or Maria as an HR would be given any sort of direction. Don't hire someone who, and fill in the blank. But I've heard this too. The longer that you are unemployed, the less employable you are. There is a silly bias. Some people may say, why should I hire this person if nobody else will hire this person? And Renee's observation is 100% correct. It's really irrelevant, but is the question relevant? It is if the hiring community has this bias. And so you have to come up with ways to mitigate the bias. What have you been doing in 6 months? Have you been job hunting? Well, that's fine. Have you been going to school? Have you been taking classes? And so you could tell a story, and I'm sure Janelle has many stories that she could talk about, different ways of overcoming biases, because you've probably seen it all.
Right. And by the way, Dave, saying current is the best answer. I have candidates who have been out of work for 6 months or more, and they've been keeping up with SEC regulations, their CPA, all of their, technology certifications, learning all kinds of, new fancy names and terms. That goes right at the top of your resume. One line, current in such and such, such and such, such and such. Right there. Most people feel you are not current if you've been out of work for a while. Well, my attitude about this, number one, you did not dump $20,000 worth of brain matter out of your head just because you got laid off, which boils down to salary. And number two, you didn't all of a sudden just dump all the knowledge. You stayed current. You moved in the direction as if you were working. And I'm sure a lot of you have. I hear every day, unemployment gave me $4,000 for this. Unemployment gave me $5,000 for that. I'm going to learn Python. I'm going to learn Rubik's Cube. I'm going to learn whatever. But no one out there should be out of work for 6 months and not advancing, what your credentials are. And I'm not saying you have to go back and get an MBA and all of that other good stuff, but just stay current. That's the word. And that way you could put that one line at the top of your resume above the last position, currently doing. That's a key item. And confidence.
And that and volunteering, put it on there. I mean, everybody at this point in their life, I'm sure, is volunteering somewhere.
Right.
Board work, whatever it is. Yeah.
I know, Maria, believe it or not, I've heard a couple of people are volunteering to go to Afghanistan to rescue all of those animals. Imagine, because they were all left on the tarmac. I mean, if I ever saw that on a resume, I'd hire that person just because of that. Because look at the girth, look at the energy, look at the compassion, look at if they're going to work half as hard in my company like that, I'm hiring the person. That's a big differentiator. But at the same time, when you put that on there, that makes a big, big, big difference. And you're so right, Maria. There's lots of ways to catch a fish, right? And you have to think about, how all of that works. How about not taking no for an answer? How about, letting them know there was something there that maybe you didn't, maybe I didn't say that I'd like another opportunity. That's being a little assertive. Asking for references, that's a little assertive. Asking the person, what's the position budgeted for? That's assertive. You keep putting these questions in front of your potential employer. And confidence, like Dave says, is very key and shows it. The confidence in knowing who you are, very important. That would be a differentiator. You know, a lot of people don't tout themselves as being very good at what they do. And you need to do that. You know, one of the things I like my candidates to say when given the question, so what do you bring to the table, Dana? Phil, what do you bring to the table? You know, we've had a great conversation. What do you bring to the table? You know, my answer would be, I bring the table. Whatever you need, whatever you're looking for this group to be successful, this division to be successful. Number one, I'll make it the best division in the company. And number two, I'll bring the whole table, not just a piece. There's nothing offensive or braggadocious about that answer if you make the delivery the right way. But you have to have that confidence. What is your value? Well, I ask my candidates, what do you want? Right? What do you want in a salary? Not what you need, not, you know, what pays the bills. What do you want? And they go, well, I want 180. Okay, that's what we go after. When you make a decision about salary and not a range, it's a better decision to be decisive about what you want instead of a range that doesn't sound like you're decisive. And human resources will tell me, not because I say it, because HR tells me, when somebody gives a range, in most cases, they redline the person. Well, is that how they're going to run the group? You know, they're going to, well, I'd like this, but I don't know, maybe, you know, there's enough indecisiveness in this world. So pick a number and run with it and know exactly what you want.
Janelle, I have a question and I agree with being a little assertive. I like that word better than aggressive. But would the size of the company you're interviewing with have a lot to do with how assertive or aggressive? I mean, a large company, I would think, might be used to, or at least more acceptable of this assertiveness, where if you're dealing with a small or a mid-sized company, they might be a little more offended. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, it all depends on who you're talking to. When it comes to salary, you already know whether or not a company of that size is going to be able to afford you, right? You've already done that research. When it comes to telling a company how good you are in your way, why would they be? Is that what you mean about being offensive or being offended?
Well, in the sense of, now I'm asking you for references. Now I'm asking you for things that aren't normally asked for. Maria brought up a couple of them. The point I'm trying to get to is a larger company more accepting of these type of questions, where a smaller company, regardless of the person you're speaking to, might be, I don't know if offended or just put on guard. That's all.
All right. So either way, big or small, I think that there's going to be some pushback because this will be something new that will pop up. That's going to pop up if it hasn't already. In a small to medium-sized company, you actually get to feel the person a little bit more because of the intimacy, right? If you're dealing with a small company. Like today, I had someone go out to an interview with a small construction firm. And I know those people intimately myself. My candidate will get the same feeling. Now, they may walk out of there and say, oh my God, I love this person. I love the person that works for them. Wow, they were very transparent. They were open. In a large company, you might get the same, in a division or from an employee, you probably won't feel it. You won't feel it in a whole. But I think for a medium, small, or large company, when asked those questions, I think it's all going to depend upon that person. And I don't think there's any differentiation. I don't believe so.
Excuse me,
Thank you.
Janelle. So we still have a couple of questions in chat if we can get to them before we wrap up.
Sure.
And a couple different topics, but all on our general subject.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name or his name right. Heloisa. Let's see. Oops, where's the question? I would love to know more about your experience with foreign people beginning their careers here in the US, considering some specific challenges, for example, English level, foreign references, etc. How and when to reach out.
All right, so that's a couple of questions.
Yep.
All right, so my experience level with all areas, all ethnicities, wherever, whatever country you come from. One of the things that's very key, up on that top 2 hit parade in terms of candidate is the ability to be articulate with an organization, fluent in what you're saying, understand the sentences you're saying, and understanding the concept of what you're doing and how it relates, to the company here. So for example, let's say you're an accountant and you're a CPA or you're an MBA or CFA. You have to be able to clearly articulate how your skills match to what the company is asking you to do in that role. If you can do that and you are articulate about it, it shouldn't matter. You should have no issues. It doesn't matter, but being able to speak the language here is important because you don't know who's going to be around you in your group. So that's why I say you have to be articulate, no matter what. In terms of ethnicities and whatever countries, whatever types of backgrounds I recruit for, there's no difference with me and with companies in terms of skill set. If you have the right skills, it's a good match. Speak clearly, be able to interview, and you have a nice personality. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'll be transparent here as well in terms of companies. Look, there are companies out there that are only going to hire one type of individual right now. And, there's nothing I can say about that other than, okay. And they will tell me that exactly. But I know the companies that will do that. So I stay away. Because I think that companies should hire people that are perfectly suited for the role. I don't care where they come from.
The other observation I have is if you're new to this country, and this would be no different as Americans going to any other country, make sure you understand what the mannerisms and their cultures are. As an example, in some Asian cultures, it's not uncommon not to look people in the eye. It's considered rude. In this country, that's not rude. It's making connection. So if you're someone who is used to your own culture and it clashes, I don't mean that in a negative way, it's just different than the US culture, make sure you understand the culture here in America. And if anyone is of interest of that, I know some people who are in the business of helping expats from other countries acclimate to the United States. I'll be happy to make that introduction. Another question in chat here from Tom. What's up with all the testing HR is pushing? I don't know if that's for you or for Maria or somebody else. And examples are Wonderlic, quantitative reasoning, IQ, personality.
I personally haven't seen or used testing in years. So I don't know if it's resurfacing, but I haven't used, years. Yeah.
Yep,
Because it should only be a 0.25% a 25% of your decision making anyway. And they really aren't that great at predicting, in my opinion.
Maria, I will bounce off that and say we've been seeing a lot more of that. And these testing, well, okay. I don't know if anybody saw my post about testing and how to look for candidates, but I will maintain, I don't know how testing is able to feel the heartbeat of a candidate, because it can't. It does, however, give them some sort of pathway into whether or not they will fit into the culture of the company. And even then, I don't really think the company should hold a lot of water with that. As you said, Maria, maybe 25%. But for some reason, everybody has to cover their ass today. I mean, everybody from the top down, covering their asses, and testing is a way to do it. You know, throw the test in there. You know, I don't want to be responsible. You know, if the test comes back negative, don't hire them. No one's taking the responsibility. They're giving it a lot to AI, and AI is making the decision. So I think we're seeing some of that because everybody's covering their ass.
I think part of it also is, and I was a hiring manager, a few of us on the call, I was never trained on how to be a hiring manager. I was never trained on how to interview people. I did a good job, I got promoted, and it came with more responsibility. So if I don't know what I'm doing, the test kind of maybe like covers my butt. But I think that's what companies are doing. They'll pay for subscription instead of pay for training.
Right, see, Maria, and that's why you have to get hired to a big company, because you have to train all those hiring managers.
So there's one more question before we wrap up here, and we will be wrapping up soon.
David, on that topic, can I interject? Because it's really not that new a topic people are talking about, fairly new. I think it was at least around 20 years ago, I had an interview at Ronson, the cigarette lighter company. They actually sent me to a psychiatrist in Manhattan for a half a day of evaluation tests to determine if my personality was going to work with the personalities of the people in the company. This thing went on so long that by the time I took the train back to Woodbridge, because they were located off of the Parkway, the person who was supposed to pick me up and bring me to the company had left for the end of the day. I got there, however I got there, and there was nobody even there to interview me at that point, because this half day wound up being like a full day. And all I knew was that whatever they saw, they felt I wasn't a match. But I also knew I wasn't a match because they wanted a mechanical engineer, and I was a chemical engineer and knew nothing about flame control. But anyway, all the different tests I had to take. I don't know what they paid this guy, but it was probably at least $500, I bet, to do all of this.
Great, thanks, Michael. So there is a question from Anne, and we'll have to end with this one, but we are leaving the session open for a little while after, but the formality of the meeting will end in a little while. So this is from Anne. When writing to prospective hiring executives that range in age, what are your thoughts on managing the balance between being very professional, in other words, using Mr., Mrs., or Ms., and being casual yet respectful, which might establish more immediate personal connection?
Well, it's all going to depend, as you say, who you're writing to. But if you're writing a professional letter, then you need to address people professionally. That type of thinking in a professional environment, writing to someone you don't know, even someone you do know, not well, of course. If I'm going to write a letter to Dave, I'm going to say, Dear Dave. But if I'm writing to the CTO at a company that I want to get involved with, I'm going to say, dear Mr. or Ms. So-and-so. Professionalism does not take a holiday. It's the same thing when you go on a Zoom or an interview on Zoom or go meet or whatever, you put a suit on. I don't care where you're interviewing. I don't care if it's at the beach. You put a suit on, no matter what. Always dress above where you're going. It's the same with a letter. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that sounds like very sage advice. And just before we wrap up, I also want to let you know, for all of us, it was based on Renee's question about, if you've been unemployed more than 6 months. I did put a link in chat to New Start Career Network. New Start Career Network is an organization, a coaching and assistance organization for job seekers. They work with New Jersey residents who are age 45 and older who've been unemployed for over 6 months. And by the way, they're a little flexible. If you're 43 and a half and unemployed for 5.5 months, they'll work with you. But they are New Jersey state residents. So go take a look at newstartcareernetwork.org, because they do see that there are challenges to people who are long-term unemployed, and they can provide assistance as well. But Janelle, I want to thank you so much. You are a wealth of generosity and information, and that's a rare and important combination, and of course a great supporter to our group and groups like ours, and of course your own group in Hillsdale. So thank you so much again.
That is all of my pleasure. And I just wanted to say again, thank you very much for coming today over a holiday weekend. If you're going to reach out, write something that inspired you to write that note, a specific title, introduce yourself, make sure you put that signature at the bottom, get very quickly as to why you're writing to that person, and wrap it up. So it's a short note, not a long note, and hopefully it'll give you more confidence, because people will start to respond.
Terrific, right? That's a great summary of the advice. Janelle, I did put your contact information in the chat as well, so I know you are always open to assisting people when you can. So folks, I will be posting the chat shortly in our website, on the PSG of Mercer County.org website. It's a link on the right side called Meeting Presentation Documents. I will also, a little later, have the link to the video of this session if you want to go back to it. So that's welcome. You get all this wonderful information again, or revisit it. And also want to let you know just what's coming up in our group over the next couple of weeks. Next week is going to be Friday, September 10th. Tamara Causley Robinson will be here. She is a life coach, and she will talk about how to deal with the impact of job loss on your family and your relationships. So some people think this is something they have to go through alone, and you don't have to. It's a good idea to get other allies, especially in your household and your closest friends. So always a pleasure when Tamara can come visit us. That's next week, the 10th. And the following week, the 17th of September, Ford Myers will be here. And we're so grateful that Ford was going to be here as well. 10 vital strategies to maximize your career success. Ford is a career and executive coach, and we'll be glad that he is able to visit us in 2 weeks as well. Other groups in the area, next Saturday, the 11th, is going to be Breakfast Club. And as I mentioned, Janelle is one of the founding members of the Breakfast Club. And Alex Freund will be presenting a virtual presentation, Can You Influence the Interviewer? So kind of a follow-up to this presentation a little bit once you make that connection. So that'll be thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. PSG of Central New Jersey meets on Mondays. Monday at 10:30 in the morning, psgcnj.biz, psgcnj.biz. And PSG of Morris County meets on Wednesdays, psgmc.org. And John is here. John, are you still meeting this Wednesday? It is Rosh Hashanah, but are you still meeting this Wednesday?
We are, and Paul Sakala is going to chat about what companies are finding out about you as a result of their reference checking.
Background checks, yeah, and Paul will be here next month as well. Yeah, he's great programs. So PSG of Mercer County will be on Wednesday. New Jersey Job Seekers normally meets Tuesday evenings at 7:30. They will not be meeting this Tuesday because it's the eve of Rosh Hashanah. So having mentioned Rosh Hashanah twice, for those of you celebrating the new year and the high holidays, have a happy and sweet, good year. And so hope you enjoy your celebration next week. And but otherwise, until we get to see you soon, hopefully one day soon in person, but if not virtually, I will simply say bye, everybody.